What's up, everybody? I am Brandon, and we got a buttload of PlayStation news to talk about today. PS5 seem to be flying off the shelves, even crushing records left and right. But because of this whole chip shortage mess, it sounds like they're having to change some of their fiscal year strategies. What does this mean for PlayStation, and are you finally going to be able to get a PS5 this year? We got all that and more on another episode of Game Corner. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like what I do, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and I'll stop wasting your time. So earlier this week, Sony had their earnings report late at night because they're over in Japan, of course. So I got up pretty early and started pouring through all of that new information they had released. It looks like even though Sony is selling these PS5s like hotcakes, they're having some serious issues because of this global chip shortage. So even though they're breaking records left and right, like crushing the Wii U's lifetime sales, they're still having issues actually selling PS5s because they just can't get enough on shelves. CFO Hiroki Totoki said in the Q3 earnings call, "Unfortunately, due to the limitations on the supply of components, especially semiconductors, and an increase in delivery times resulting from the disruption of the global distribution supply chain, we have revised our fiscal year 21 unit sales forecast for PS5 hardware to 11.5 million units." At the Q2 earnings call, they wanted to sell about 15 million PS5s by March. Because of the supply chain distribution issues and all these semiconductor shortages, they're having issues actually getting hardware together to sell to customers. At the time, a lot of us were really skeptical about them selling that many, especially if this was going to continue, and we all kind of were thinking that it was going to. Even back in September, Toshiba had to make an official announcement pretty much saying that this is going to continue most likely until September 2022 or even further past that. So seeing as how we aren't really sure when all of this is going to end and all this is going to be resolved, it's best for them to hike back on those numbers a little bit just so that when all these earnings reports come through, it doesn't make them look bad on their end. CFO Hiroki Totoki goes on to say, "Limitations on the supply of components are expected to continue going forward, but we are continuing to exert every effort to meet the strong demand for PS5. We are working closely with our partner companies supplying us with components, collaborating, negotiating, and working with them closely. We hope we can make that happen, but in terms of PS5, I think it's safe to say that we will continue to have supply disruption in terms of the components globally. So we can't say for sure what is exactly the demand for next year." So like I said, this is mostly for investors, so it really doesn't matter all that much on the grand scheme of things. Everybody is facing this chip shortage, everybody is facing the supply chain issues, so it's just something that we're all kind of having to deal with right now. But it does sound like they're making every effort possible to get this fixed as soon as possible, and at least working closely with manufacturers to try and get those parts to them sooner. Like I and many others speculated, it sounds like this chip shortage is going to continue for God knows how long. Hopefully it can actually start getting resolved later this year, but we're kind of just going to have to wait and see. And obviously because of that, they normally would kind of do a forecast of like, this is what we expect to sell, but because we don't really know, we have to kind of hike those numbers back just so you guys don't think that we're not making enough money. Luckily, I don't think that's too much of a problem for Mr. Hiroki. It seems like the PS5 is still a gigantic success for Sony, and it's going to continue to be, especially when they can start getting more of those things on shelves. It's actually sold over 17.3 million units as of December of last year, completely outselling the PS4 in its first financial year, even with a shortage and during a pandemic. And on top of that, it even outsold the Wii U's lifetime sales in a single year, which it peaked at 13.56 million. It's the fastest selling console launch in US history in both units and dollar amounts, and it's obviously just been a gigantic success for Sony during this pandemic. More than ever, people want to play video games because they're sitting at home and not being able to go outside, and obviously releasing a console during all of this has just been a huge home run for them. I love seeing that it outsold the Wii U's lifetime sales in less than a year. That's just absolutely bonkers. The Wii U is infamously known for not being very popular, but it's still kind of some fun trivia. Unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't give numbers out about their hardware, probably because they sell less than PlayStation and they don't want that widely known. So unfortunately, we can't like compare them both to each other and kind of see which one is doing better, but seeing as how Xbox Series X's are flying off the shelf just about as fast as PS5s are, I can only imagine they aren't far behind at this point. Still though, as we can see, every million units sold totally counts, so I'd be really curious to know kind of what their sales numbers look like and kind of just compare and contrast how these two are doing compared next to each other. So yeah, that's about all the Sony news I got for you guys today. What do you guys think about this whole chip shortage and supply chain issue? Have you been able to get your hands on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X yet? And what do you think about the PS5 completely crushing the Wii U's lifetime sales? This was the Game Corner episode on the chip shortage issues and the PlayStation 5 absolutely crushing it in sales. Thanks for watching and have a kick-ass week.